All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 21st, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Our first selectman, Alan Mall, and call this meeting to order. Everyone would stand and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, at this time I will open up the floor to public comment. I'll start in the room. Is there any public comment in the room? Okay. Is there any public comment on Zoom? Is there any public comment on Zoom? All right. We will move on to item number 3, approval of the minutes from the June 5th, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
So for June 5th, this is Kathy Harrington. I make a motion that we adopt them as drafted with just a few changes. You see on page 3, under the first paragraph, line 4 of the Southwick agreement should say Selectmen plural. And the same for page 3, line 2 for the right of way. Also the same for page 3, line 1 for the planning and zoning regulation ordinances. And also page 4 for the vehicle transfer. And then on page 5, when we congratulating Kelly Giannuzzi, High Rocks is spelled Hyrox.
Hyrox?
Yeah.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes from the July 24th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Kathy Harrington, I make a motion that they be adopted as drafted with no changes.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Items 5 through 7 are reappointments to the Parks and Recreation Commission and the Suffield Housing Authority. Rather than each one approved separately, no board member has any issues. I recommend we approve as presented.
So moved specifically for Jonathan Carson to Suffield Housing Authority through June 30, 2028. Andrew Jolie as a full member of Parks and Rec through the same date, and David Rostott as a full member of Parks and Rec through June 30, 2028.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 8 is discussion and approval of tax abatement in the amount of $4,805.37 to Robert Williams due to the agreement.
Kathy Harrington, so moved.
Motion is approved. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item number 9 is discussion and approval to change the waiver of property tax from $25 to $5 and refer to town meeting. Send everybody a memo from the town attorney and a summary from the tax collector of this request to correct ordinance 270-9, which was changed in error back in 2016 and 2017. The ordinance should read $5 rather than $25 for property taxes due to the town. This falls in line with the Connecticut general statutes and practice of tax collector currently follows. So I have not changed that down every this year. That's not any further questions. Pretty straightforward.
Part of the statute, about $5.
Yeah, so what ended up happening here is that we contracted with a company called General Code, who's the same company that publishes the E360 ordinances on our website. They gave us suggested revisions to all of our ordinances. Kathy was on the ordinance review committee. We had a one by one through them and decided which ones to adopt and which ones not to. A lot of that had to do with updating, well, parts of the code, which reference statutes that were out of date, updating the fee structures, a lot of fees had changed, so, when the ordinance was written, it might have been a cap, might have been 5, the cap might have gone up. In this case, the cap went up to $25, and they made the recommendation to change it. The tax collector and the assessor at the time were not in favor of that change. And we went back and looked through the minutes, and we're pretty sure that the minutes aren't exactly perfect on that, but I'm pretty sure we denied that based on the materials I have in the office, but it ended up getting into the final version anyway. So, we had sent everything back to general code, they gave us a final version of it. The tax collector and the assessor have always wanted to keep this at $5 as opposed to $25, which they are allowed to do. It's up to $25 is what's permitted in the statute. So, accordingly, after a couple of years, they tried to work with it, you saw what that means numbers-wise, and they want to go back to the $5 that it originally was, that, we feel works best for the town, and thus, we're recommending changing it back.
So moved.
Discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 10 is discussion and approval of town right-of-way ordinance and refer to town meeting. So we've reviewed this topic 13 meetings. Lee Corbett's here, our DPW director, if you have any questions.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks for joining us today. And as a reminder, the ordinance would require contractors doing road work on any of our roads to apply for a permit and have the work inspected by the town. The ordinance is designed to better protect our roads from misuse for public work. At the June board of selectmen meeting, we agreed to not move this forward because of some edits and language on the agenda. The edits were made by selectmen and to move the changes. If there are no further questions, I recommend I move this forward to next week's potential town meeting.
Just clarification, this has nothing to do with all the trucks that get parked to make for lawn care and all that. It's only
No.
for highways, it's only working on that.
Working on our roadways, coming into our roadways,
That's not-
it's on our roadways, correct.
So,
I would just add again, going back to refresh what we talked about before, most other towns have something like this in place, and this is an area where we've been, I think, deficient for some time. There's a lot of opportunities that we see on a regular basis for people to cut into roads. That the one that just personally is infuriating is we paved Bridge Street about 4 years ago, and we paved it in the spring, and in the fall, the development that was going in had a drainage issue, had to cut into the roadway, and, next thing you know, we're doing the patches over those things again. So, I think the purpose of this, as is drafted, is really important. This is about protecting the public investment in the infrastructure.
What is, Lee and I were talking about this, is there like some moratorium we'll put in if we, like, can't cut into the road for 2 to 5 years, the road's redone?
I mean, practically, I don't think that makes a lot of sense, because, if there's a drainage issue that comes up and needs to be fixed, it needs to be fixed.
Outside of the ordinance?
Well, that could be a lot of different things. I mean, if, there's easements that go underneath our roads for things like a conduit that's run from, Eversource. If something has to go in, it's gotta go in. We don't have a whole lot, in most of those cases, there's not a whole lot we can even do about it. So it'd be nice to at least recoup the costs and get the road redone.
Are there any other questions?
I don't have a question, but since Lee's here, I'm just gonna jump on. It has nothing to do, well, maybe it does have something to do with the ordinance. I had someone call me today, at the end of Wisteria Lane, where the new development went in, the cul-de-sac, the old cul-de-sac is not paved.
Yep.
But everything else is.
Correct.
Do they have a plan to do that? The
So I know Attorney Donnelly is working with the residents there,
Oh.
they need to sign off on something about the town taking some land. We were expecting to get this done in the spring, but there's been, I think that Attorney Donnelly can speak on it better than I
Okay.
could about his interactions with the residents. We're waiting on something.
That answers my question. You know,
We can address that.
yeah, I just figured out,
Yeah.
because it kind of blends in with.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I move that we approve the proposed town right of way ordinance and refer to town meeting.
The motion has been made, is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, appreciate it much.
Good job.
Thanks.
I do want to sit around just to listen.
Yeah.
Stop it. Might refer to you.
Yeah.
All right. Item number 11 is discussion to reestablish a landfill management commission. After reinstating the landfill permit this past spring, it's evident in our discussions that there are more policies that need to be established at the landfill that protect it from staff and local use and abuse. Not believe that the board, or selectmen have the time during our meetings to try and establish any policies for the landfill given all the intricacies of operations there. I recommend we have either reestablished or now defunct landfill management commission, create a new committee to oversee and establish policies there. I shared with you guys chapter 68 of the charter, which outlines the responsibilities of the landfill management commission. I don't believe chapter 68 really defines giving this commission the authority to create and oversee policy and operations, but I think it should. So I think, I want to open it up to discussion, see what you guys' thoughts are on this, whether we want to have people oversee it, create policy, we want Lee to create policy, we don't want to touch this, so this is the point I'll open up the floor and start. I'll do this and what you guys have to say about it.
So, I'll start, it's Kathy Harrington. So, in my sense is, I don't think that we need to reinstitute a commission to take care of this. I think it's something that DPW director, along with his staff up at the landfill, in coordination with the first selectmen, should come up with policies. I mean, they're the experts, they deal with the landfill, they understand everything. To me, it's like taking care of their day-to-day business. I could definitely see them coming to you to make sure that the policies make sense, that you're, you think they sound good. If you also think it makes sense for them to come to us for approval, for, to sign off, I'm happy to do that and look at it as well, but I don't think that you necessarily have to do that. I think, we should trust in our DPW director and his staff to come up with the policies. Hopefully they can work collaboratively. I mean, that's how I just see it. Think that they were the experts and would know best.
Yeah, they certainly are.
So, sure, I agree with Selectman Harrington. I think that it's easier to keep folks accountable when you have clear lines of authority. And when you added a commission, you end up in this triangle of a first selectman, a commission, and a department head. And then it starts getting, or at least has the potential to people who are like, no, it's not me, it's these other guys. And so I don't think that we should jump into creating another one of those triangles. I think that the director has a skill set, has experience and training in a specific field, and can utilize that training and experience to implement policies and move forward.
That's right. Pete,
Yeah, this is Pete Hill, I'll agree with the other two selectmen here. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel, between, the DPW director and the staff there, they know better than anything. If you remember 10 years ago, you could just dump all your electronics up there, no problem, China will take it. Now China doesn't take it anymore, so everything changes fairly quickly, and I think they know better, and I think if we had a commission and they'd be like, oh, let's put a compost heap there, or let's put and we can add stuff that's just gonna create more problems up there, and I think the staff has a better idea than anyone else. But yeah.
Thank you.
Well, surprisingly, I see it a little differently, and the reason being, I think of CBC, or zoning committee, who has, there's some expertise on that committee that's exceptional, and we benefit from it. And there are people who come before us who understand some of the issues there that I certainly don't have an idea. And I can't expect Lee to know everything about it. I mean, when we talked about putting solar up there, I mean, we were fortunate, Kevin Sullivan was a big help to us. So I think there's people here in town who have some expertise that we could benefit from. I don't see we need a commission that meets every week or every, you know. But in part, I think of the ethics committee that meets at least once a year when there's an issue of some sort. Otherwise, they don't meet except for that once a year. You know, my suspicion is there was a landfill commission. It was disbanded. I don't know the real details of that, but I suspect it felt like there wasn't a need any longer. But things change. You know, solar, so the codes that the state comes up with and all that. I guess I'd like to see us put one together and benefit from some of the expertise that we have in town that we wouldn't necessarily have, that could make us look at things a little differently.
If I could add just one thing, 'cause I think it's an important distinction. We have commissions and boards that are spelled out in the charter, and then we have commissions and boards that are created by the Board of Selectmen. The landfill commission is a weird one because it's not in the charter. Just the distinction is it's an ordinance that creates it. So we have the ability to do it through ordinance, but we're not mandated to by the charter, if that makes sense. It's sort of a unique distinction. I don't know what the reasoning for that is, that it's not in the charter, but it is not. So.
Is there any distinction between their responsibilities or what they can do?
Every appointed commission that's in the charter is just has a general reference in the charter, and then usually has an ordinance that spells out in more detail what it does. The landfill commission has no mention of the charter and just an ordinance. So, you know, I interpret that as it's a option available to the board. It's not mandated like a charter commission would be.
Do you know why anybody know why it was disbanded?
So here's what I would say, Mel, because I think that your overall point, which is that if we have some expertise, we should use it where that expertise can help us. I think that I would be more inclined to listen to the idea of putting together a commission if either through feedback from the DPW director or through our own experience in terms of what we're hearing from residents or what we're seeing at the landfill, we have some condition or issue that perhaps there's some expertise available, like what you're referring to, that we could benefit from. Then I'd be certainly willing to revisit that.
I'll just push back a little bit, and Mr. Gothier in a couple of meetings has pointed out things to us that we didn't consider. So I guess that's what kind of strikes me is that there are people who see things, you know, Lee's got a pretty broad responsibility, so I'm just thinking that he could benefit for some people, just like PPC. You know, that's how I view it.
Right. So for now, it seems like we're okay with at least allowing you to move on the policy.
Yeah.
That's a direction. And we would support whatever policy you create. Okay, all right. Any other discussion on this before we move on?
Will that policy come before, will it be approved by us, or will they put it in place?
I think it could at least come to us for like a sign.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I guess it depends on the nature of the policy. Okay, so if we were gonna talk about a policy, just for example, to have everyone pay by the pound for whatever they bring to the dump, I anticipate that would probably be a policy that he's gonna probably come to us and look for input from the Board of Selectmen. However, there's gonna be things that I expect we're going to be anticipating based on his training and experience that he has and he can implement without hearing from us, in the same way that a fire chief or a police chief has specialized training and experience, and they're going to be putting in place policies, for traffic stops, for how you approach a dangerous fire, what have you, that they don't need a board of commission for, and I expect that there's gonna be things of a similar nature that Lee's gonna be doing. I would expect.
Yeah, so we could do it case by case, depending on what policies. Bring it to you guys as we move forward.
Sure.
Okay. All right, item number 12 is discussion of town property on 1440 Mountain Road. So up for discussion is the old firehouse 2. I'm unfamiliar when this firehouse changed from fire operations to storage, but I know it has been used as storage for a few years before I started in office. Most recently, the Parks and Recreation Department has taken over and used it as storage. Previously, DPW was using it to store lawnmowers, and now has this new storage building. This past summer, we discovered a hole in the roof that led to some water damage, which was minimal. Upon further inspection, this is from the roof needed to be replaced due to age and multiple holes. You guys have pictures the director shared with us. Siding has numerous areas of wear and tear. Overall, the building is in decent shape for its use, but should have the exterior updated to prevent further damage to the inside. I shared quotes for both the roof and the siding on the property card.
Yep, so here's, you
So
want the
gauging the
pictures?
board's
first?
interest on the potential need for this building, or if we want to consider selling it. I see the value, the cost of repairs is around $16,000. Not the most ideal storage location and setup. However, the setup can be changed as we just started using it for Parks and Recreation. One thing to consider is that both the schools and the Parks and Recreation Department are in need of storage. And if we were to sell the building, we could consider allocating funds to a building much like the one which is built for DPW. So I would open up the floor for discussion and see what your initial thoughts are on this. Anyone say any thoughts?
Well, this is Pete Hill, my initial thing, it's always been in my head, don't sell town property, and that's kind of where I'm at. We are still using it as storage. I think 15,000 is, a fair amount to repair the roof. But, if a developer or somebody wants to buy it, we could entertain it, but at this point, I think I would just leave it as is.
So this is Selectman Harrison, do you mean leave it as is without repairs, or?
I would repair it.
Well, I agree, I mean, 'cause I think the cold storage building was roughly $250,000 to build.
Around that, yeah.
So, and this was assessed at what, 150,000? So we'd still have to put more money in if we're gonna build kind of the same size and same type of building. To me, I think we should repair it, they should continue using it for storage, and maybe, my understanding is maybe they should focus on organizing the things that they're storing, so that they're storing them in the right places around town, to make them more accessible for their use, but I'm in favor of repairing it.
Jerry, Mel?
Yeah, being the minority guy. I just know storage is a real problem for both, I know it's in the schools, I don't know the town as well. It's only like 900 square feet. Something like
It's
that.
not large.
And I would bet, if you did a survey of the people in the audience now, probably, maybe one person could tell you where it is.
Well, now everyone knows.
But, I lived there a long time before I even existed, let alone, it's kind of out of the way, doesn't take much stuff. Certainly it's got temperature control, so you gotta really restrict what you put in there. I'm sure the mice must love it. I just think having a storage facility is critical. I mean, we lucked out a number of years ago at the high school, the Rotary Club chipped in and built the storage for the equipment out there. If they hadn't done it, God knows. I would be more inclined to sell the building. I think the location makes it useless to us as a town for the most part, and build a facility that can be used well. I would make one proviso though, if you guys choose not to do that and want to restore it, we should at least have somebody go in there and set it up so you can put shelving in there so it can be used more efficiently than it is now. There's people who do that kind of stuff. You could put storage and shelving in there and you could get more stuff in there. I would rather sell it for.
I actually don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. It's bigger than I thought it was, but it's not.
Says 940.
Really?
Because what's that, it just says livable area is 940. 47 by 20. With the
Corbett's here.
1920.
Perhaps give us some more detail of what's inside, what it looks like inside. But I was just talking about the unfinished basement. Self-damage.
Yeah, so there's actually some other issues with the access to that concrete there's a whole, a couple of holes in the now, you can see that picture.
I have
Actually, I got the, but in the back, no, it's actually in the interior.
Oh, okay, I don't have that.
It's actually.
So if you look at that, upper left corner of the interior flat part over there.
That hanging out.
Down on the floor, there's basically sawdust that's coming through from critters, inside. With that said, it is a small building, so it could cost us $60,000 for the side different from perhaps that people had brought up there over the years, for whatever reason, we didn't have storage space, so we had to clean out that, so we brought that down. We cleaned that out with our stuff and stuff in there. We have full storage space.
I should look at it from a financial aspect, is it really worth $16,000 to $35,000 for a $100,000 building?
Yeah. How much would it cost to build? So two questions. How much would it cost to build a new building? And, what's the maximum size building put there in the zone? So that's,
Now you're at, just trying to gauge a result for a state, maybe that might help. What's it sit on?
Is there
half
other,
an acre?
Because we're rebuilding new storage.
yeah, it's 0.13 acres. It's small.
Well, that would have to be consideration, I know elected these, it was kind of last minute, but to consider building something out by the senior center for them. I don't remember what the initial cost was, but Brad is here.
That was about figures.
That was a much bigger cost.
from you, are there other places around town where we have to store stuff that's scattered around?
I think every department has storage needs. I know we have some stuff in finance over at the annex as well. I mean, storage is a big thing throughout town. Every department is lacking, I feel, storage. And people are kind of on top of each other with storage right now. So,
Brad, I'll take, put you on the spot, but how long has it been on ACE's request list for the schools? Right?
Oh, I've been on every year, because I've been there, so for at least 3 years.
So I guess my,
It's been out a long time, because if we're doing housing in schools, we're doing.
my thought is what happens if we actually get to that point where we decide to build building and then we have to do this building and that's what we're gonna do for anyways. We're not using it for that, serve no other purpose, probably inside storage. So something we can maybe taken care of right now, rather than later, which I imagine at some point we're gonna get to storage in some sort of base budget. But from again, from a financial aspect, I don't see the value in spending a third or quarter of the building's value just for storage.
I guess part of that analysis would be, are the materials that are being stored there in the cold storage area, are they being harmed by any of the defects that we've got? I mean, the siding, yeah, there's little cracks, hole, what have you. What about the roof? Is any roof coming in that's damaging materials in there?
So what
And if
about-
so, is there a way to deal with that without putting a hole in the roof?
so I had it patched immediately because obviously we didn't want to exactly what we did use. So it's been patched, but it was very clear they have patches, a temporary thing. So again, if we're gonna repair it, I think we're gonna
I also just wanted to point out, it is a historic building, it's in the historic district, so there's that to consider as well. So any exterior repairs are probably gonna have to be signed off on by the historic district.
So the siding, the company still makes that exact siding, so we can have siding with the exact same material, for roofing, same thing with the exact match. So those issues, obviously, that would help, with that, but we're lucky we had a box of the original siding in the building, so the contractor was able to look at it, from that facility.
So I'm just doing the math on my phone because I'm not very good at numbers, but I mean, if it's the value of the property is $150,000, and 25% of that's we're just looking at 15,000. I get that $15,000 there may be other work that needs to be done. And Mel, to your point, I understand that everybody's, normally like saying that they need storage and it'd be nice to have more. I just see this as a building that we already own, that don't need extensive repairs, it's being used, continue to be used, so. And I don't know that we get $150,000 for that, I have to be perfectly honest with you. If it's a small and it's on 0.1 whatever acres, then maybe we
The
would.
abutting
maybe we would-
property owners don't buy it, there's a
Yeah.
limited, interest, I would expect, by other folks.
I just look at it like, if we still need storage, this is a place that we've been using for storage. didn't they put, rider mowers in here?
Yeah, so we moved those out, and that's
Okay.
when I was made.
So now you guys are, you have yours, so now other departments are using it. Maybe we need more storage, I'm not certain, like Brad indicated, when I was on ACE, it was on ACE every year then, and it still is now. So I just see this as another piece that I don't see why we can't do that.
I guess I just push back a little bit. Let's say it's $20,000 to run it off and fix it. Let's say you can get 75,000 selling it, that's about 100,000 towards a new facility. It would be efficient, which would benefit the whole town, as opposed to one area that's so small. It's limited in its, it's limited in its value.
My understanding is what we were looking at was 383,000, so even if we get 100, that's another 280,000, we have to put towards the facility, figure out where to put it.
Well, but we keep asking every year, apparently ACS, or at some point we're gonna,
I respect that, but I would also say push back a little bit, say, but we've been doing fine every year, and then we haven't gotten storage, right? Like, we're making
I don't
do
know,
with what we have, so,
We need to remember that unfortunately, this town has a habit of taking our buildings and just letting them fall, to the point where McAllister had bricks falling off the building. So this building it's over 100 years old, it's a historic building. Even if we wanna sell it, I think we have to fix it before winter, because if you don't fix it before winter, you're gonna get rain and snow and ice in there, then it's gonna deteriorate, and then you're not gonna get the 150,000, maybe you get 100,000 for it. So I think you have to invest that money in it just to preserve it. And if you wanna sell it next year, or we do build a space and you wanna sell it, okay, but to your point, I don't know how many people, unless it's the farm next door, and I don't know who's on the other side wants to buy it.
well,
And then they're not gonna be able to knock it down because it's in the historic district, they're not gonna allow that. So I think it would be someone that wants to store their vehicles, I guess. I don't know, but I just think we have to do something. We can't just let it sit there and let the holes deteriorate the building.
So why don't we take 2 weeks till next meeting, think about it, and we'll discuss it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Item number 13 is discussion and approval to transfer the following funds from fiscal year 23-24 contingency to the following departments and refer to the Board of Finance. Item A is $58,000 to the Finance Department. Item B is $2,203 to the Tax Collector Department. Item C is $132.90 to the Board of Assessment and Appeals. Item D is $75,000 to elections. And item E is $20,000 to Town Council. And some of you guys have the reasons in our packet. If you guys have questions?
Ken,
is it late for the elections, is that because of the, we have primaries and all that?
Yes, more early, but we've built those into this.
this is Kathy Harrington, I would move that we approve the transfer of the funds listed A through E, section A through E, from fiscal year 2023 contingency to the departments that we originally started with Board of Finance.
Motion has been made, is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 14 is discussion and approval of DPW union contract. So their contract was set to expire July 1st of this year. Beyond wages and benefits, there was not much to negotiate. We were able to come to an agreement on the UCBA for the next 4 years fairly quickly. I think it was like 4 weeks. Major highlights and changes to the contract, to share with you guys. Wages are 2.5% for 3 years, 2.75 for 1 year. Negotiated a $4,000 bonus to offset any higher wage increases, which appears that CBAs are around 2.5 to 3%, more towards the 3%. We increased their dental for the first 2 years of the contract by 1%, increased medical by 1%, increased HSA by 1%, and increased the 401k makes a lot of sense for both sides. It's $23 and it's $26 now, and we removed two sections and had some language changes, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to answer. And that's bold changing.
I move we approve the DPW union contract.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Further discussion?
I give you credit for coming up with the bonus, that was a pretty creative way, and you seem to buy into it, so it seems to be a workable solution.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I showed you guys the 5-year payoff, and in year 5 is when we start saving, and they get a nice little lump sum early on, and saves in perpetuity after it, so.
Good job.
Thank you, appreciate that. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 15 is discussion and approval to transfer $32,000 from fiscal year 23-24 contingency to DPW payroll to pay for the FY 25-28 DPW union contract and for the Board of Finance. So this 32,000 is the total for what we would own, the bonus for this upcoming CBA. And being that our contingency line item is pretty healthy from last year, recommending that we pull from there rather than adding a one-time line item, $32,000 into next year's fiscal budget.
Kevin Harrington, so moved.
Motion has been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 16 is discussion and approval of master municipal agreement for rights of way projects from the state of Connecticut. I sent you guys a letter from the State Department of Transportation. We need to approve the attached resolution that allows me to enter into this agreement with DOT to allow for funded projects like Lotsit. This was last done in 2016. So, just need somebody to read the resolution.
Okay, resolved that the Honorable Colin Mall, First Selectman, is hereby authorized to sign the agreement entitled Master Municipal Agreement for the Rights of Way Projects approved by the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Suffield, Connecticut, this 21st day of August 2024.
So, the motion, right?
And the town meeting's at 6 o'clock.
No, this isn't for the town meeting.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
This is for the memo.
this is,
Oh.
yeah, part of the state, DOT.
DOT stuff.
Right, motion's been made. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item number 17 is discussion with Charter Revision Commission and action on next steps. Eric Remington, Chairman for the CRC, is here to give an update on the work that they've done up to this point. Eric, I invite you up and thank you for joining us. And also, thank you for your work as chairman, and thank you to the entire group for their work at this point. It's been a bumpy road, but
What's that?
yeah, we put your presentation up here.
Okay, great, thank you. And Elizabeth Kaplan from the commission is here as well, and I think there's other members on Zoom. So we did, as a group, prepare a summary and timeline, which I don't know if that was distributed to everybody. I wasn't planning to go over that tonight. But that is just a summary of the meetings we've had and the milestones to date. So our first meeting was May 23rd, which I believe was the week after the appointments of the membership were made by the Board of Selectmen. And the first thing we did was, well, we went through the charge and the process. But we knew that today was the date that we were supposed to report back to the Board of Selectmen. So the first thing we did was establish a timeline that got us to today, present our recommendations. I think as you're all aware, we've had some glitches in the prosecution of our work. We've been hampered by technical challenges. We had an issue with Zoom during a public hearing that required us to reschedule the public hearing. We've had some procedural issues with people questioning agendas, special meetings versus regular meetings, and we had, for a period of time, we were down to 4 members, which is below the statutory requirement of 5 members. So we were unable to conduct business until we had another member appointed. But despite all that, to date, we have conducted all the interviews related to the original charge that we were given, which was to look at the changing the tax collector, town clerk, the treasurer from elected positions to appointed positions. So that work has been done. We'll go through in more detail, but the bottom line that we're asking tonight is for more time. But we'll come to that in the end. So to date, we've had 7 meetings and 2 public hearings. We were pretty much meeting weekly for a while. We've interviewed the 3 incumbents in the positions that we were asked to look at. We also interviewed the first selectman, several of his predecessors, and also a former treasurer. We interviewed them as well. In addition to those, we did have some comments from the chairman of the Public Permanent Building Commission, which we'll talk about in a little more detail. We've also done research on all 3 positions. Some of the office holders provided research. Other members of the public have provided some. We've done some ourselves. We've also had public input at each of our meetings, so we have public input on the agenda at the beginning and the end of the meeting. We've had some pretty regular participation there, so we certainly appreciate all the feedback that we've received during those meetings. And all of our meetings have been on Zoom for broader public awareness. I forgot to mention that Selectman Harrington has been our ex officio member from this board, and has been a great asset to us as well. So just summarizing the feedback, and this is very generalized, because obviously we've had a lot of feedback over 7 meetings. Virtually all the comments that we received have been to the effect that people that have spoken to us have indicated that they believe the 3 positions should remain elected. We have had some feedback that the duties of people in those roles are not necessarily aligned with the language in the charter or the job descriptions that they have, so it does appear that there is maybe some area for clarification there, regardless of what we decide to do. We have had some public comment advocating for us to take a broader view and look at more than just the items that we were charged with, to look at the broader organization as a whole, and not just cherry pick these 3 positions, but to look at the form of government more broadly. Another comment that we received is related to technology. So most meetings today are on Zoom, or at least boards and commissions have the option to make those publicly available. And that has not been codified in the charter. I'm not sure it needs to be codified in the charter, but it is feedback we received. As I mentioned earlier, we were asked also to look at the provisions in the charter related to the Permanent Building Commission. There's some concern that there's unclear lines of responsibility, and so we were asked to take a look at that. And another piece of feedback we received as well, it's not a charter item, that our ethics code is weak and should be strengthened. Again, that's not a charter matter, but is feedback that we received. So in our view, the next steps for us, if we continue, would be to discuss the feedback we received and the research that we've done. We've had a lot of, all our meetings have been taking in information and asking questions. We have not, as a group, deliberated on any of the information that we've received. So we would like to do that. as I mentioned, we have had some commentary on other areas people would like us to look at. And again, we haven't discussed that as a group. We've taken the feedback, but have not deliberated on whether there's an appetite for taking on or looking at any of those things. If we do decide to move forward with potential changes, there's the potential that any changes could impact other provisions of the charter that we haven't necessarily considered, so that would have to be part of the process. Then we would have to draft any language, so if we did decide to make changes, we'd have to draft that. Statute requires us to hold a final public hearing before we come back to you with a final recommendation. And we believe that if we continued, that we could come back to you by the end of October with final recommendations. So just finally, I mentioned it in the beginning, but what we're asking for tonight is, given some of the issues we've had in doing our work, that we'd like to continue and conclude the work. We do believe that we could do that reasonably by the end of October. So that is what we would ask of you tonight. Finally, we did just want to thank all the elected officials that we've spoken with. And they've been very accommodating and understanding of what we've been asked to do. They've been very patient with some of the schedule hiccups we've had. We've had to cancel posted meetings and reschedule, and everyone has been very accommodating, so we certainly appreciate that. I mentioned earlier the members of the public who've been very cooperative and constructive in their feedback, so we certainly appreciate that. Town attorney has been very helpful. It's been to almost all of our meetings. As I mentioned, Selectmen Harrington as well. It's been very helpful. So I don't know if you want to put you on the spot, Elizabeth, but is there anything you'd like to add?
You presented perfectly. A+ rating. I'm the newest member, so I can't add to the first 5 meetings that I missed, but I'm happy to be on board. I can say that I would like to continue the work now that I'm in it. I would like to see it forward.
I've got a few questions.
Sure. Okay.
How many more meetings do you think that would be up till October?
We didn't actually come up with a number, but when we looked at the calendar, it's August. I think a handful of meetings would probably be more than adequate for us to get there.
And about how many members of the public attended on average regularly at your meetings? If you had to guess.
Say half a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then-
Well, I mean, there's been some on Zoom consistently too, but yeah, I'd say on average probably half a dozen.
Thank you.
You're not gonna hold me to that.
No, it's if you had to guess.
Okay, yeah, all right.
My only question really would be to the town attorney, what do we need to do in order to grant them the time that they're asking?
It's funny, Jerry, I thought someone might ask me that question tonight. So this would be about amending the original charge that you gave. So again, once a draft report is provided and if you were to say no more, right, then Eric would have to send this report to the town clerk, and then you would have to hold a hearing on this within 45 days. If you amended the original charge and set a date towards the end of October, like you're being asked, the same process would just go on. They would come back and report back then, and at that time would provide you with draft recommendations. You then have to hold a hearing on that within 45 days.
So, I'm sorry, this is Kathy Harrington. Derek, looking at the wording of our agenda, does it look like we might have to amend? Because it does say discussion with Charter Revision Commission and action on next steps. We need a motion to say that we would like to, like 17A, to amend the charge.
You're certainly welcome to if you feel more comfortable that way.
I think
but
I would like to make sure
I
we
think
do that.
I think it's broad enough that it allows for it.
You
So,
do? Okay,
I mean, your action on the next step is to extend the
okay.
charge of the
All right.
Charter Revision Commission. So
I just want to
don't
make
have
sure
a problem.
well, we've had procedural issues before. I just want to make sure there wouldn't be a procedural issue.
No, I think you're okay.
Okay.
Anyone feel
No.
You're good, okay, so.
No. But my one question is, once they're done, the changes to the charter, does it have to be an election, a special election, or can we do it at a town meeting?
No, there has to be an election on changes to the charter. So, you can do that in a lot of different ways, but there does have to be an election. The difficulty, if you remember back to our original conversations on this, the reason why the aggressive schedule was put in was in order to get it on for the general election this year.
Right.
There's kind of 2 points of that. One, it's a cost-saving measure to the town, right? And two, and sort of more importantly, I guess, the threshold of votes required is just a simple majority of those voting if it's a regular election. If you have a special election, kind of think like we did for the vote on the highway garage, right? If you have one of those sort of special referendum elections, you have to have a minimum number of voters, registered voters of the electorate show up to vote. I can't remember what that threshold is off the top of my head, but I will tell you that before the end of the meeting.
So, one thought I had is, we're not gonna make it to the election, but at some point, we're discussing all these large capital projects, bonding, referendum for that, some point down the line, could be thrown off of that also. Should probably be from the October to February range, I think, given the timeline of where we're at with all that research we're studying, and putting, reports together to do that stuff. It would make sense that, October is a good date, opinion, but I'd like to have seen something now, absolutely, but I certainly understand the hiccups and the bumps in the road you guys were getting.
So you're thinking there would be a special election in the spring for all of that, because we don't need, for the bonding and stuff, to go at town meeting, right?
Well, good, but I'm also thinking, I'm trying to pull as many people as possible to vote, and I think when, if we're going bonding, you're gonna get a lot of people when you're discussing spending large capital projects.
And to that end, I mean, you can also hold the charter vote for 15 months. The vote has to occur within 15 months of when it's approved. So I mean, theoretically, you can say, look, we're gonna hold this until the election next year and put it on the ballot then. I think, there are some practical ramifications of that. People lose interest and lose, stop paying attention.
Momentum.
Right, those sorts of things. But you do have 15 months for the statute to call the election.
And that's what my thought was, if we, instead of charging them for October 1st, say January 15th, and then we have the hearing, and then we could just attach it to the next election, because even a special election is gonna cost the town $25,000 or whatever. And I think the bonding stuff could be at a town meeting, and we could save the $25,000 and just, I don't think there's a need to have a special election for the charter revision. I think we can wait till a year from November.
Well, I guess we're probably getting a little bit down the line of what we need to do tonight. I'm not sure it's gonna be $25,000 for a special election.
I have no idea, I just threw that number out there, I just know that it's thousands.
Well, right, I think I did see some numbers for the most recent election, and it has gotten more expensive because of the ability of voters to come in and vote early, which not a lot of people took advantage of, but it had to be staffed. I think they're asking for the end of October. I think that's what we ought to go with. I think that if we give extra time, like if I understood your comments correctly, you were saying, hey, let's give until January 15 or something. I think let's keep the timeline that they're moving to, the timeline, if in the near term, it keeps everybody moving forward instead of complacency sets in, and then the holidays come along and nothing happens. That's my 2 cents on that, and I think, so October 31st, I think I just looked, is a Thursday, so if we made it for October 30 for them to come back, I don't know if that's gonna be probably would not be a meeting for us.
We could maybe, this is Kathy Harrington, I was wondering, if we could just do November 6th. That would be Board of Selectmen meeting, and just check my calendar. That would give them through October, allow them to do their work, file their report, have a public hearing before they bring it back. I'm glad to hear that the whole board does support, well, as far as I can tell, giving them more time, because they've worked really diligently.
Well, Mel
They've done a
hasn't
great
pushed
job.
back yet.
I know
so
he
we'll,
hasn't.
And the reason why I wanted to push it back is because of the holidays, and, Eric said that, a handful more meetings, in about 7 weeks, they're gonna have 5 meetings.
Right.
So I figured give them a little bit of a break, and back it up a little bit.
I would think if, let's say, following your suggestion of November 5th or 6th, whatever you date was, you couldn't do anything until probably January at minimum with the holidays. I mean, you got Thanksgiving coming up, and you got Christmas coming up, so you'd probably be into the new year. So my question back to you is, you've been asked by some people who've come forward to expand your what's the word I want, responsibilities or what you're looking at. If you were given more time, does that become more feasible?
I mean, the things we've been asked to look at are not things that are gonna require huge amounts of time, to research and deliberate on, so, I mean, more time is always better if we're not in a rush. Something beyond October gives us a little cushion, but, I don't think when I look at, I guess I'm kind of reading the commission without having talked to them about it, I just don't see us going past more than a couple months.
I agree with Carrie's assessment.
The other question I have, and maybe this is the wrong timing for that, have you talked to other towns in your research who have elected or not, or chose not to?
And we've done research, so we know who has, where these positions are elected versus appointed in other towns. And we've looked at, towns in our area, towns similar size. So we have that research. We haven't specifically spoken to anybody from other towns that have either made the change or chosen not to make the change.
Do you know of any other towns that have made the changes?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's, I recall off the top of my head, I think the tax collector and the town clerk, it's about 40% statewide are still elected. Treasurer, there's fewer and fewer treasurers that are still elected across the state, but there's still certainly a fair number of appointed, elected town clerks and tax collectors across the state.
I'm for the November 6th. I think that's the week right after the meeting.
So we need to amend the charge, is that correct?
I think you just vote to extend the charge, to amend the
So
charge.
I move that we amend the charge to allow the Charter Revision Commission to report back to the Board of Selectmen on November 6, 2024.
Okay, the motion has been made, is have a discussion.
I have a question, Eric. Is November 6th okay, or would you like it longer, or back to your October? Do you have any preference?
No, November 6th is fine.
Okay, fine. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you, Eric.
Thanks, Eric.
Welcome.
All right, item 18 is call town meeting.
Okay. So legal notice of special town meeting, Town of Suffield. Notice is hereby given that a special town meeting for the inhabitants of the Town of Suffield, Connecticut, qualified to vote in a town meeting, will be held at the auditorium in Suffield Middle School, 350 Mountain Road, Suffield, Connecticut, on Thursday, August 29th, 2024, at 6 p.m. for the following purposes to wit: 1, to consider and act upon a town right-of-way ordinance as approved by the Board of Selectmen. 2, to consider and act upon an amendment to section 270-9 of the town ordinances regarding waiver of property taxes as approved by the Board of Selectmen. 3, to consider and act upon a blight ordinance as approved by the Board of Selectmen. 4, to consider and act upon a farm building exemption ordinance as approved by the Board of Selectmen. 5, to consider and act upon an amendment to Chapter 159 of the Town Ordinances, adding Section 159-7 to the Building Construction Ordinance as approved by the Board of Selectmen. 6, to consider and act upon a resolution removing the town zoning regulations and subdivision regulations, Chapters 310 and 315 from towns' published ordinances, and instead publishing those ordinances on the town website. Copies of supporting materials may be found on the town website at www.suffieldct.gov or by visiting the town clerk's office, 83 Mountain Road, Suffield, Connecticut, beginning on August 22nd, 2024. Dated at Suffield, Connecticut, this 21st day of August 2024, Board of Selectmen, Colin Mall, First Selectman, Mel Shafitz, Selectman, Kathleen Harrington, Selectman, Peter Hill, Selectman, Jeremiah Mahoney, Selectman.
Thank you. Long one. I don't recall, do we have to vote on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motion.
That's the motion.
That is,
Yeah.
all right.
That is my motion.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Item 9,
And just so we close the loop on this, I'll take responsibility to make sure all of the various ordinances get to the town clerk's office in the morning. So we compiled them all today, so we'll send it over to her in the morning.
good, all right.
I'll
Thank you.
send it to Becky to get on the website.
All right, thank you.
Awesome.
Item number 19 is public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Janet, could you just state your name and address, please?
Senator Janet, 380 Prospect Street. At first, I would like to commend Mr. Remington, and the board, the Charter Review Commission, and Ms. Selectwoman Harrington for all the work that you've done. I really appreciate it. I think you've done a great job in looking at things, putting forth information to the public and listening. I especially appreciate you having 2 public comment sessions. I really appreciate the work that you've done. I hope that we have learned some lessons here. I hope that we've learned that please don't just pick the lowest number of people possible for a commission. Please build in some padding. Things happen in life. I would encourage you very much to think about that the next time you form a commission. And I'm glad that you did indeed acknowledge that we have 50% of our voters as women. Ms. Kaplan, thank you very much for coming on to the commission late and representing women. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I also hope that we learn the importance of following the rules in terms of agendas and what's a special agenda and a special meeting. I know it's a pain in the butt, but it's important. Secondly, I would like to just, okay, I think that's that. In terms of the DPW contract, I have one comment. I was here last summer, I believe it was, when we were talking about Juneteenth holidays and whether things could be closed or we could have a town holiday on Juneteenth. And at that point, you had indicated that we do have complications in doing that because of union contracts. And if I heard what you discussed around the DPW contract, you did indeed renegotiate benefits and some salaries and things like that. I would like to think that in terms of that, you also looked at renegotiating Juneteenth as a holiday, given it's a federal holiday, and including it in your paid holidays for your DPW workers. I don't know if you did or not, but if you didn't, I would also please encourage you as you move forward with your other union contracts, please look at that. It is a federal holiday, and it needs to be part of our town, I believe. There are people in our town who this is very important to, and it should be important to all of us. So I ask you, please, take that into consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment in the room? Mr. Gauthier? Just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Hi, Dave Gauthier, 3219 Phelps Road. first topic is the Charter Revision Commission. I think they're doing an excellent job. I have been to a few meetings, I have zoomed in, and the ones I haven't been able to go to, I actually have gone in and listened to the recordings. And I've gotta say, I've learned some things that I didn't know. I heard some outstanding questions and comments from people that, just astounded me. I would say this is such an important thing. This is our town government, that we give them enough time and let this go to the election in 2025, November. There are multiple issues in the charter that need to be dealt with. I brought up one. It didn't make the chart, but I think it was an important one. And I think they all need to be looked at. And it's very, very important, I think. This is our government. I don't take it lightly. I'll leave it there. The second issue is the landfill commission topic. I was on Zoom. I heard the discussion. I said, I could comment on Zoom or I could come here in person. I felt it important enough to come here in person. The first selectman and I are in communication over the landfill policy with the town attorney involved. I believe the policy that is implemented is not the policy you all voted for on May 1st. I went to the landfill a few weeks ago. I had no intention of bringing this up. I had 5 AA batteries. I don't have a permit. I don't use the landfill. I go by on Thursdays on my way to rehearsals, and I just swing in and go. I had 2 things. I had 2 batteries, and I was told, sir, you don't have a permit. Very respectful. The guys up there are great. I have no issue with anyone up there. I also had a bag of returnables for the Jimmy Farm. No, you can't do those either. Okay, so I'll find another way to do that. And I was told you can't enter the gate without a permit. My understanding on May 1st was that you could enter the bulky waste without a permit. Any town resident can do that. And going to e-waste, Mr. Hill, it's nothing about China. E-waste is totally free to the town of Suffield. The state of Connecticut pays for all of the e-waste, all of it. They take it away free of charge. And they insist that residents do not have to pay to deliver their e-waste. So I went back and looked at the minutes from May 1st. They were fine, but they weren't detailed enough for me, so I listened to the recording when I brought up issues. And I believe the town attorney had agreed with me at the time. And he even said that he had a recommendation to put wording at the end of the policy that said, the e-waste, not the e-waste, the bulky waste section, anyone could go there. And Selectman Harrington said, does that wording go before the dollar signs, the $25 fee, or after? And he said, it goes after. The current policy has it before. It changes the meaning of the policy. The ordinance says you don't have to pay. Residents do not have to pay to go to bulky waste. It's clear. It's not about the $25. I would recommend you actually change the ordinance and make everyone pay. I have no problem with that. But today the ordinance says you don't have to do that. I believe the government, our town government, should follow whatever the town voted for. We voted for that years and years ago, not to have to pay bulky waste. And you institute a policy that when I was here May 1st said that you did not have to pay. And now you do have to pay. I'm disappointed, and I think you all should be disappointed that what you voted for is not what's going on. And so should there be a landfill commission? I don't know. But the ordinance needs to be changed, and everyone needs to understand, as a resident, what we can and cannot do. I'm at odds for this. That's why I had to come here in person, because I was under the assumption that there was gonna be a landfill commission and they would work all this out. That's not gonna happen. And I'm disappointed. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment in the room? All right, I'll move to Zoom. I see a hand up, Miss Annie Hornish. Just state your name and address for the record.
Annie Cornish, 864 Throttle Avenue. I just want to make a comment, the charter revision. I've attended many, if not all, of the meetings, and I just want to say it's been, Chairman Remington has done a wonderful job, very professional. One suggestion that I brought up with them that I hope they would consider, and this comes from my experience serving on the Granby Charter Revision years ago. We went through the whole thing line by line. This is an opportunity, they can do that. It's not, it seems like it keeps coming back to this concern for addressing a specific charge, but there are things like modernizing the charter to codify Zoom meetings and electronic, more electronic ways of communication. So I would really strongly suggest taking the time and doing it completely, like literally going through line by line. I'm also a little, that's the prior speaker, Mr. Goff here, thank you for pointing out what happened, and it's a bit of a shame that citizens in town have to be monitoring you all so closely. And it's, frankly, the lack of transparency, you've got to do better. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom? Let's go down. No. All right. All right, well then, moving on to item number 20, which is Selectmen updates. Just give you guys a few updates. In the finishing stages of Suffield Field for the irrigation, the funds we used for the ARPA funds. We're almost done repaving the Spalding parking lot, which was done through our budget this year. PBC continues their assessment of the facilities master plan. I believe they're almost through the schools and have already completed the town facilities. We just wrapped up interviews for library director today and have a unanimous recommendation to bring forward to the Memorial Library Commission. Connecticut Water is doing water line work throughout town, so you see them on Mountain Road. I think you're about to see them on Marlborough and San Fairville and up in that area. Welcome the new superintendent, Matthew Dunbar, to Suffield. He just started about a month ago. There's work on the Veterans Monument, which has just begun. And just want to thank that entire group, the Veterans Memorial Committee, for all the work on that. And we did get the new vehicles for the town hall that we approved a couple months ago. Took a little while. We still need to work on the lettering on them, but we'll get to that when it gets a little bit for that. And that's all I have. So, anyone have anything they want to share?
I have one thing. About a year and a half ago, there was a resident out, Greg Honey, was very popular, and a lot of friends. And recently, his friend Dave Camera got some people together, and so they donated a bench at the town green. And I just want to thank Beth Honey, Abby Honey, Alex Honey, and Dave Camera, and the other people that were involved that helped donate that bench. So that will be their nice little asset for the town and nice remembrance of Greg.
Anybody else?
I just have a suggestion. Would it be nice to invite the superintendent to meet everybody? Superintendent's.
Yeah. school season, but I'll reach out to him and see if this is, something he's interested in. And anyone else? Alright, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, everybody.